Hi there, students. Trim as an adjective. Or to trim something down, to trim something off. So to trim as a verb means to cut something, small amounts off the edge of something in order to make it look neat and tidy. So, if your fringe is coming down over your eyes, you need to trim it just to cut it a little bit. Or if you have a piece of meat, maybe you want to trim some of the fat off the edge of it. Or you trim the grass, you just cut a little bit to make it shorter and more organized, better looking. You could trim a budget to cut it, to reduce it, to cut a little bit here and a little bit there. You're making it smaller. Or maybe your nail, you have a fingernail that's a little bit long, you trim it. Or you could trim a hedge. Yeah, you have a hedge, you just cut little bits off the edge. Or you could trim the costs of an operation. And then as an adjective, something that's trim is something that's neat and tidy. So his garden looks very trim and neat. You could also describe somebody's figure as trim, not me. And you say you're saying that their figure is trim because it looks attractive. There's no extra fat on their body. I need to trim down. I need to lose some weight. Okay, to trim off, to cut off. So to trim, to remove by cutting. So he trimmed thousands off the budget. Yeah, you clip a hedge, you trim a hedge, or you could trim your beard to make it look nice. You could trim down an inventory, for example, or to trim things that go round the edge. So the coat was trimmed with a golden thread. Okay, so to trim is to make something look pretty with lace or ornaments or something like that. So to embellish, you could trim the Christmas tree with tinsel and baubles and things like that. Okay, so to trim, or a ship, getting a ship so it's floating in the right position. You adjust it so that it's floating exactly right, not to one side, not too far back, not too forward. Or an aeroplane, so that it's not going up or down, it's going straight along. So to trim, to cut something, to make it tidier, make it more level by cutting little bits off it. I need to trim my hair. Or perhaps you trim off the ends of your asparagus before cooking it. Okay, so to trim, to reduce the size of something. The company is trimming their costs and sacking some workers. To trim, to decorate by adding things, adding pieces of material. A jacket that was trimmed with a piece of fur. Okay, so edged with. If somebody looks trim, they are thin in an attractive, healthy way. So you look very trim. Have you lost some weight? Something that's tidy and well ordered. A trim garden. Okay, so to trim, to cut something just a little bit, to make it neat and tidy. I'm going to trim my moustache. Or to trim you put the pastry over the top of your pie, and then you trim the edge, you cut round the edge. Okay, he was wearing a shirt trimmed, edged, decorated around the border with blue velvet. You can also use to trim to meaning to beat soundly. They trim their opponents in the game, but to trim, to cut off the excess of something in good trim, in good order, in good in a good state, but mostly just to cut off the excess. Yeah, to cut off the bit that's over the top, that's just too much. Trim. So to trim, to prune, to cut down the edges of, to make slimmer, to make smaller. Trim the rough edges with a sharp knife. Trim off the excess pastry. Your essay is too long. You need to trim it a little. The garden is trim and neat. She has a very trim figure. Ask the butcher to trim the excess fat from the meat. The hedge needs a trim. This exercise is designed to trim your hips and stomach. I went to the barber for a trim. Okay, I wore my red jacket with the white trim. Okay, the architect specified oak for the trim to go round the edge. Okay, so to trim a budget. Trim. To cut down, to trim down. 5 informality, use anywhere. This looks very trim. Maybe 5.5 informality, but still use anywhere. This comes from Old English, triman, to strengthen, to make stronger. From Proto-Germanic trumjana, to strengthen. Proto-Germanic trumaz, strong, sound, firm. Okay, so trim, to trim. Yeah, if you're trim, you're physically fit, or you have a slim figure, or something's very neat in appearance. So, trim.